We live in a world where underprivileged students have been behind in their studies, where they cannot achieve their better achievements, where the students also cannot pay for their education bills and for their schools or the university right now. These students are the ones who need the utmost help right now, and the scholarship should be only granted for the basis of the financial necessity we're proud to propose. So what is the characterizations of these scholarships? This means that the scholarship is going to help the underprivileged students getting their financial help, getting their money, and it is going to be through a selection for the underprivileged only, and the privileged is not going to compete in this, and it will be explained later. So even if the opposition says that it will make the underprivileged dependent on the government help, this is not the case, because they are still going to compete at the end of the day. So why is this more urgent, and what is the status quo right now? We also have to take account that in Indonesia, where the country don't have the economic inequality, so where people of the Jakarta, where people have the more economic equality, it is very different from someone in Papua, where the economic benefits is not there yet. We also have to take account the evil nature of the birth lottery, where you cannot choose whether you come from a family who is privileged and underprivileged, where the underprivileged cannot go to school financially, where they cannot also have the stable food, the house, and etc. Where the privileged people here also still have this kind of things. They still can have the financially, they still have the money, and they can still provide their families with the financial needs. So we believe that the urgency right now is to provide scholarship for the unprivileged rather than the privileged. We also know that in the status quo right now, where there are many of oversaturation, many of the scholarship based on the achievement rather on the financially. Why is this unfair, and why is this unjust? Because the one who is privileged now has the more capability, right? Because they have the online courses, they have the books, the extra books, and when we mix them into the people who are underprivileged, then the underprivileged one is going to be left behind, right? Because they don't have the books, they don't have the courses, and at the end of the day, they are going to be left behind, and they are going to be inferior technically. So if this is going to be unfair, and this is why the urgency of the motion that we are going to fix this under our side of the house, because this is going to make the underprivileged going to be focused in the scholarship right now. So several points of clarification and models, that there will be still the competition for the scholarships, where the underprivileged fight for the scholarship. But since we have taken the scholarship based of achievement out of the picture, so the quota for the underprivileged scholarship is going to be 100%, right? So where before the example is that the scholarship is on the 50% privileged people and the 50% underprivileged people. So now it is going to be 100% underprivileged students, right? So it will be more fair for them all. So secondly, the underprivileged students, they are still needed to study, right? Because we aren't just going to give them this scholarship based on this scholarship just because they are underprivileged. They still have to fight for it, but since they are only going to compete with the underprivileged students, this is going to be fair, right? Not because if we just mix them into the underprivileged into the privileged, and they are going to be unfair in that regard. So our goals here is that we stand for the equality of the education. Our stance is for the future of these underprivileged students, and this is going to impact them beneficially at the end of the day. So 2 points of arguments. Firstly, why is it morally justified to give underprivileged students this scholarship? And secondly, how this will motivate them to go to a higher education, and at the end of the day going to benefit for their future at the end of the day. So firstly, why is it morally justified? So because the underprivileged students don't have the same capabilities as the one who is privileged, right? Because the student have the extra money, they can spend the extra money on the books, they can spend the extra money on the things like online courses, whereas the students who are underprivileged, they cannot spend on those things. They even can, sometimes they cannot even spend their money on the food that they needed. So it is pretty much justified for the government to give them the scholarship that is needed for the education, right? And secondly, there are the cases where the student who is underprivileged have the situation that they have the necessity to care for their parents and they need to work for their money, right? So they are not focused on the education. We are going to fix that because we are going to give them money and they are going to focus on their education and their future. So if we have reasoned this motion, the oversaturation of the scholarship of the one with the achievement and the one with the financial basis is going to be solved, right? So there will be there only be the scholarship with the financial basis, and this will be making the underprivileged students are going to do this with ease because they don't have to compete with the privileged one and the one who has the extra capability, as I said before. And the underprivileged students can at the end of the day, they can, if they have this scholarship, they can do their own education with no problem at all. And at the end of the day, they can have the job they want, the future that they want, and have a family, and etc. And we believe that it is justified for them to have this. Even if the opposition argue, oh, the privilege is going to be protesting that, oh, yeah, that is the case. But at the end of the day, the privileged one is going to have the education because they have the money to give their family the education that they want. But the underprivileged here, they have no choice, right? They have no choice of getting the education because they have the money. But unlike the privileged one, they have the money to get their sons or their daughters to the education like the college. And secondly, why is this going to motivate the students? Because the motivation here, the lack of motivation here is caused by the scholarship is going to be competed by the privileged and the underprivileged, where the privilege is going to be on top and the underprivileged is going to be the bottom, right? So this will make the underprivileged insecure to get to the higher points of schools like university. And that's why we see many of the blue-collar workers, where people just want to get the easier job because they have no motivation. We want to give them motivation to get more in life, to get the better jobs, to get the jobs that they want, ladies and gentlemen. And there is also the problem where people have no motivation to go for the best, right? Because they cannot compete with this. And we also stand for them because if we raise this motion today, if the scholarship is going to cater to them, to the underprivileged, then it is going to make the student have the motivation that they need to do, because if we do the opposition at the opposition's world, that they cannot have the motivation at the end of the day. So we here stands for the students, the underprivileged students, and etc.